Customers expect traceability as an absolute given. So every bar, every component, every fitting that comes through the warehouse will have that same attention to detail.
Here on an MTD Technical Corner, we're joined by metallurgist and metals expert Rodney from Langley Alloys. And we've covered a lot of really interesting materials in this series. So we've covered 725, which is a super high specification alloy, really rare that some might have not even heard of or even come across. Today, we're covering something a bit more entry level, a bit more standard. What kind of alloy have you brought in today, please, Rodney?
This is a chunk of alloy 825. Thank you for the promotion, by the way, as well.
Right, no problem.
So it's a nickel-based alloy, but whereas 725, Inconel 718, those very high-performance grades are 50, 60% plus nickel. 825 is 40%. It's much more, I think you may have said, a sort of an entry-level product in a way. Its whole raison d'etre, the whole reason for its development was for applications involving acid use, sulphuric acid, which is widely used in lots of process industries, be that chemical processing, fertilizer, battery production, dyes, etc., etc. There's a big demand or a big use within those industrial processes. Lots of pipe work will be made in 825. And so we stock bars so people can fabricate those sort of ancillary components in a way, flanges, fasteners, pump components,
and
valve trim,
like
and bits and pieces like this lump as well, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can imagine, I guess, I don't know much about fitting this pipe work, but if you screwed this onto a piece of pipe, once it's all installed, it's all fairly static. There's not much mechanical stress on the material. As long as it just doesn't get pitted in by any of the acid, then it's going to survive okay in the process, which is really important.
That's right. It's not particularly about the strength for this alloy. It's about that resistance to acids, and it's the applications it's used in, really.
Yeah, absolutely. But what I find fascinating about the company as a whole, Langley Alloys, is you spend a long time with lots of very specialist materials, and you treat every piece of material with a good amount of respect in the warehouse. So whether it's a 725, a super expensive piece of material, or a more humble 825, then what happens to the material as it comes in? How do you check it? And we're going to talk a little bit later about what happens when you send it out as well to a customer.
Well, everything that we stock is a relatively high value product in its own right. So just financially, we don't want to be losing anything. But more fundamentally, I think our customers just assume a degree of traceability from production through our warehouse into their process onto the end user. So we'll take a fair bit of time going through that goods inwards inspection process. We'll look at the product visually, we'll check its dimensions, we'll check its composition, we'll check for radiation, we'll look at the straightness, we'll check the paperwork's in order, we'll then colour code the bar ends, we will physically stamp them, label them and put them in a discrete location where we can easily find them. And then, when somebody places an order and we take the bar out of stock to process it, we will then go and repeat that stamping and labelling of the smaller bars and billets before packaging it and going out of the door. There's a pile of paperwork as well that goes with it. Yeah.
So much work that goes into providing a piece of material that once it drops on a machinist's lap, you might think, oh, well, it's just someone's just sawn it up and chucked it out. I didn't realise there was any radiation concerns with materials coming in.
I think it's more just a general requirement for a whole range of metals that are made in a particular way. So there was a very small chance that you could get some contamination into the steel supply chain. So we just routinely test everything just to provide that additional assurity.
Brilliant. I'd love to try a Geiger counter, take it around the alloys and try and poke some things.
Just one of the fun tools we get to play with.
Yeah, fantastic. And then 825, really good corrosion resistance, good for acids and alkalis. What's the availability like?
Unlike some of the other nickel alloys, this one is a bit more straightforward to manufacture, so availability is much less of a problem. It's available ex-stock in a pretty wide range of sizes, so no issues there.
And that's alloy 825. It's an entry-level nickel alloy, but it's not without its specialist applications in corrosive processing. But also it's available from Langley Alloys today, ex-stock. Make sure you check them out.